Okay, so in this video what I'm going to do is take a look at my top 10 most likely unseen issues. Having been through the case study, having been through the strategic analysis, seen all the strengths and the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats, what comes out of that are some key issues that I think are by far the most likely. So of these top 10, given there are two exams, what I would hope is that of this top 10, these would probably form the bulk of the issues on exam day. There are always going to be a surprise. In any particular exam, the examiners will throw in something that's appeared nowhere else, something completely unrelated to the Preseen that they're going to throw in there in order to surprise you. But if you've been through all the various different other videos with me, it's obvious the direction they're leaning with some of the issues as well. And so therefore that's really going to help us to predict what these issues are. And if we can predict what the issues are, that's going to help us to prepare and be ready to deal with those on exam day. So first thing for us to consider is, where do I get my issues from? What's the basis of my choice? So the first thing is, without doubt, the focus in the Preseen. There are a number of issues where a lot of space is devoted to that issue, lots of discussion. In fact, there's a number of issues that are interrelated. They're in one section and then they're mentioned again somewhere else. They're mentioned by the finance director somewhere else, as if there's financing issues in related to those. Those are really big hints that's going to appear somewhere. And to be fair, most of my top 10, and I'm going to do them in order from 10 down to 1, but the top 1, 2 or 3 are the really key ones in that area. Those for me are the ones that the examiner is saying, come on, this is the things I'm going to be examining here. Otherwise, why would they put that in? Next basis of my choice is the strategic importance, the importance to the SWOT. And what I've been trying to think about is, we've got this new CEO here at N Retailer. What are they going to be really attaching importance to? Finally, and definitely not the least, is my experience of past exams and typical issues. There are certain types of issues that come up again and again and again. There are other issues that just tend not to come up. There's one as we go through that really looks like it's being highlighted as a big issue here, but for some reason it just never seems to get examined. And I've got absolutely no idea why. I'll reveal that to you as we go through. Another basis is how easy is it to set calculations, because we know that in recent exams the volume of calculations has gone up, and so they will be looking for the types of issues they can set calculations on. Not all issues will have calculations, but certainly if there is a clear calculation that can be set in that area, that's something that if I was the examiner, I'd be thinking I might include that as well. After all, we are accountants, we should be able to do those calculations and analyse those numbers. And also there's an element of how easy is it to write the issues on the subject. Some issues it's dead easy to write an issue, and others it's very difficult. And so the examiners are likely to choose something that's quite clear, it's quite easy for them to come up with an issue for. Okay, so when we go through these, and once I've been through them all, what should you be doing with these issues? Let's go through some key points. First thing is to practice mock exams that cover the key issues. Almost certainly these key issues will become part of the mock exams for whichever of the key providers that you are going to. The reality is that most of the different providers of mock exams will be covering these key issues. I certainly hope they will be, at least. What I can tell you is that the Astranti mocks, we will be including virtually all of these top issues, because these are the most likely ones. So we want to make sure that our students have practiced those key issues. But I mean, do practice mock exams with these issues. So you've got used to the structure, you've thought about this issue from a real exam point of view. That's going to be critical. Second thing is to learn a relevant industry example for each. A really good exercise for you, once you've been through this 10, is to go and find the industry example you would use for each of these top 10. That's going to ensure that whichever of these comes up on exam day, then you've got an industry example ready to use. You will get a mark, a diversity mark, for doing that, and so therefore this is a really critical exercise for you to do. Next thing is to learn the advantages and disadvantages of the typical point. And so you've basically got most of your key points pre-prepared. Now, a big caveat on that is you must look at the information given to you in the exam. The generic issue that I'm going to give you here will have different aspects to it given in the exam. And I might be saying, well, this is a great idea, go ahead with it. But the reality is that the way it's presented in the exam, you shouldn't be going ahead. So you do need to take the case as it appears in the exam, but you can also prepare for these issues as well. So that should be a great advantage. Okay. Next, be prepared for the models which support that issue. What I'm going to do is for each of these issues, I'm going to tell you what I think are the key models to use. I'm going to tell you the key points as well up here, but I'm going to tell you the key models that I think you can use. So then you can have learnt that, you get into the exam and you think, yes, this is the one that Nick said I could use this model. Maybe it's 5 forces, or maybe it's applied to the SWOT, or maybe it's Cotter and Schleisinger's change model or something like that. Okay. And you're probably there thinking, what's Cotter and Schleisinger's change model? Was that E1, E2? Those kind of subjects as that one. Anyway, practice key calculations. So what the key calculations that come out of these top issues, you can go away, do mock exams, go back to your past maybe F3 papers and questions, or buy our calculations pack, or if you're on our course, then use the calculations pack in order to practice the key calculations that are likely to come up. So here we go then. I'm going to do a countdown then of the issues from 10 through to 1 of the top issues, the most likely issues that I think will come up. And of these 10, the least likely, I think, but is quite possible, is my number 10 issue, which is a cash flow issue. And my issue is that something happens to the business. There's a change in fortune, there's a cash flow crisis, and you have to do a cash flow calculation. The Preseen does mention the importance of cash flow to the future plans, which is a hint that, maybe we might have that. But to be honest with you, they look like they're in quite a good cash position, which is why I'd have normally thought, well, maybe cash flow wouldn't be an issue. But the last time, I'm not sure if you know this, but there's basically 2 examiners, or 2 sets of examiners, and they do 1 sitting each, basically. So they do 2 sittings each. And the last time this particular examiner set the exam was August and November 2012, and we had a similar sort of company that didn't look like it had any kind of cash flow problems, and yet cash flow came up in both those exams. And so on one side, I'm thinking, well, look, I don't think this company's going to have too much of a cash flow crisis. On the other, I know that this examiner, it's a favourite topic. And therefore, I predict that somewhere we will probably see a cash flow. Okay. So, what are the key points that you would raise if we see a cash flow calculation come up? Well, very likely it's going to be related to financing. If there's a cash flow calculation, probably you've then got a cash flow problem. It's very rare you're asked to do a cash flow calculation and there's not a cash flow problem. So where are they going to get that money from? Well, at short term, it might be an overdraft. Longer term, we might things like selling some of our assets. It might be some of our stores that we're not going to be using, that we're closing down. It could be that we get loans. Sale and leaseback has been a popular method for retailers over recent years, where you sell the store, you get the money for that store, but then you lease it back. So you've got this big upfront payment, and that can be used to finance a whole range of different projects. It could be something basic, like just delay payments to suppliers to see over a cash flow shortage. So those really practical things could come in there as well. Okay. Ongoingly, you might then say, well, we need to regularly monitor the cash flow position. Perhaps we need to improve our IT systems so that cash flow is automatically calculated as part of our ongoing finance systems. Worth mentioning that cash flow is really the lifeblood of the organisation. Without cash, many profitable businesses have failed because they've got no cash to pay their suppliers. So, and it really is an important point. This would be a weakness in the swap then if there was a cash flow limit, and the key model here is cash flow calculation. This is one particular one where I don't think that many of the other models are particularly relevant beyond doing the calculation and saying it's a weakness.